Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite number 4431-09. This is a sliding door lock, flush type lock set with an exterior cylinder, and I have all the parts on my desktop here, and I'll show them to you one at a time. Here's your exterior discussion. Being a 4431 means you're going to have a cylinder on the outside, whereas a 4430, we'll dissect all the variants of the part number in a moment. A 4430 would mean that you do not have an exterior cylinder. Plastic escutcheon, very common, very typical. We're going to get two Schlage look-alike original key blanks. Look-alike. That is a Schlage seat keyway for sure. Okay. Now these locks you're going to see commonly in sliding patio doors in residential applications. I've seen these in sliding aluminum doors that are in hospitals as well, because an emergency room triage area will have all of these automatic breakaway sorts of doors. A lot of Adams Rite materials installed in those locations. Some doors that are sliding, they'll look like everything else, will have a lock like this to close it up for whatever the intended purpose of the room is. You are going to get an interior escutcheon, obviously, as well. And this is the complete lock, by the way, the 4431. Knob here, okay, which will allow you to drive the cylinder body. Okay. This communicates with the bird's mouth type tailpiece on the back of the cylinder. And as you turn that key, it will also drive the inner mechanism up and down. And it's this lazy tailpiece. It's lazy because it's allowed to rotate. Communicates with the lock. And here's your smart little lock body that you've got here. It's a hook bolt, a very common, typical sort of item. Very smooth operation on this sort of lock. And this sliding door hardware is, you know, ubiquitous. It's just very common and very typical material. Okay. And you will get then two screws for the lock body. Pardon me. Yeah, you'll get the two short little screws for the lock body, which are these tiny little flathead screws there. Then you'll get these two long screws, and that's for holding the interior escutcheon to the exterior. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video to what's called the template. And we're going to talk now about the different variants of how this lock part number is derived. After that, we're going to talk about installation. So the template brings up a two-page document, an original manufacturer's template documentation. It might be called cut sheet by the time you're viewing this. Now, page 1 refers to the 4430 and 4431 series locks. The only difference is the 4430 does not feature a cylinder on the exterior. Talk more about that in a moment. Back set. Your minimum 5/8 of an inch and maximum basically 1.25 inches from the face of the lock to the escutcheon and to the center line. So that is something that you can, and we'll talk about that when we get to the installation aspect. Okay. Escutcheons molded of ABS resin plastic, black satin finish. Custom colors are available if you are going to do a tremendous quantity, typical for a hospital or a condo building. These are very commonly seen on balcony doors as well. Recessed, deep finger pull sort of situation for sliding. Now the function, similar in function and nearly identical in size to the all-metal 4189 and 4190 series flush lock sets. Here's what that means. These are the 4430, 4431. It's a function. There's the 4189 and the 4190, and those are identical to this lock for all intents and purposes, except that the exterior parts are made of metal. A lot of people want that metal material. A lot of people are just replacing exactly what they had. So if your trim is metal, you'll want to jump over to the 4189 or 4190, or if you want that in lieu of the plastic exterior, jump over to those two part numbers. The point of these is that they're less costly, okay, because they're plastic. Inside our operation, Vertical slide button projects or retracts the deadbolt. And that's because this tail piece is going to communicate with the lock body here. And while, I would need to be able to hold the escutcheon plate rigid, as you move that, basically, there's no real way to emulate it, but as the escutcheon is bolted through the door, this entire assembly cannot move, the exterior escutcheon. So as you push that up and down, it will force the tailpiece to travel because it's actually moving up and down like this. Oh, okay, that's the concept. Outside operation, the 4431, which is what we're looking at here. Key 5-pin Schlage C keyway, cylinder, does the same thing from the outside, retracts or extends the bolt. Stile thickness, meaning the thickness of the door. You can go from 1 inch to 1 3/8, it says, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. The door thickness, stile thickness. So you can handle the width of the stile in that range, 1 inch to 1 3/8. Okay. Then your operation, we've covered that, showing how that works. Now, page 2 gives dimensional information regarding the escutcheons and the lock body. And let's just touch on some of that here. The width of the escutcheon is 1 1/4 inches, and that's the same for inside and outside. The height is basically 8 7/8, very close to that. Okay. You will have the dimension shown for your lock body. It's basically your overall height of the preparation at 3 3/16, very close to that, 3.218. Then you're going to have your center to center for your screw holes. In the installation of this, well, we'll hold off on that. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then at the bottom left area of page 2, you can see the reference to the back set. You can work on as small as a 5/8 of an inch back set all the way to about 1 1/4 inches. And that's going to be, because this tailpiece can travel, you'll be able to move this to suit your condition a little bit better. All right, now, the gist of this video is the table in the lower left-hand corner. The first set of 4 numbers, 4430, 4431, 4432, define the function. 30, no exterior cylinder. 31, with the exterior cylinder, which is this lock. And then the 32 would be a dummy. Okay. You could have a pair of sliding doors. I've seen it. Sliding aluminum patio doors on a lanai in a home in Florida, let's say. You'll have one door will need to be made to look like a dummy. Now, the next set of 2 numbers, your 00, your 9, or 095, your 10 or your 105, refers specifically to the lock face. Now, you can see that this is square up here. This ear, this is going to be installed inside of the door, okay? And this is going to come up through the hole that you've created in the face of the door. But the 09, which is this lock we're looking at, it could be the 10, means that this feature is radiused, okay? That's the only difference. So if you're buying a lock, sorry, back up. Next 2 numbers is the stile thickness. That means how thick is your door. We have to know if it's the 00, which is from a 1 inch to 1 5/16, the 05, 1 3/8 to 1 5/8, or your 08, 1 3/4 to 2 inch. Now, quite frankly, the 00 is very common. 1 1/8 thick door is very common. An 05 version, where you've got a door that's about 1.5 inches, is also very common. This lock happens to be the 05 version. The length of those screws is important to know what you're dealing with. You need to be able to make sure that your tailpiece and pin down here can communicate with the other side of the lock, and all that's made depending on the door thickness. Okay. The next set of numbers, you can have Adams Rite do keying arrangements for you. You'd have a 00 if it was a no key cylinder like a 4130 or a 4430 or a 4432. 01 is most common. That just means it's keyed differently. So if you ordered 3 of these and they were all 01s, let's say 4 of them, and they were all 01s, they'd all come different keys. Okay. Better example would be if you were ordering 2 of them. You could do an 01 and you wanted the 2 units keyed differently, or you could make it an 02 and specify that them to be keyed alike. The 50 means KA50. You would, if you were ordering 50 locks and you wanted them all the same key, you'd order it you'd order it the 50. The -IB is a reference to the part number, and quite frankly, I don't know what those 2 letters stand for. And it's quite simple. The option in the lower right-hand corner, it summarizes everything I've been trying to say. Specify 4431 if outside key cylinder operation is required. Specify 4430 if not. Add a -10 for the square or a -9 for round. Dummy set 4432. Accessory grip pull, the 4453, is also available, and that is a black plastic handle, which we sell with some frequency. Okay, you can buy that as well, at least at this time you can. Now, moving forward to the installation, and your lock is going to come with instructions. There is a link below this video to the document called instructions, and it is an encapsulation of this. Basically, what you're looking at here is creating the rectangular cuts. If you're doing this from scratch, and it's most likely that you're not, you're just installing new hardware, replacing old hardware. But if you're doing a new installation like a locksmith would certainly do, you create your 2 rectangular slots. Okay, you would create the preparation in the edge of the door. You would drill and countersink your 2 holes to hold the lock body on. So you're going to create this slot. You're going to drill and countersink the 2 holes for the screws, and those are those 2 little tiny screws. Okay, you're going to make sure that your back set is compatible with what dimension that you're going to be working with, and that in the back set means it specifically means the edge of the door to the center of your hole. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the instructions. When you look at box 4 in the upper left-hand corner, it shows it's not very clear, but it definitely refers to the center line of those preparations, and that's your back set. Edge of the door to the center of your hole, which per section 2, called style preparation, gives your width. So your width is 1.078, roughly 1 1/16 inches. So if you're going to go with, let's just, for round numbers, say a 1-inch back set. Edge of the door, 1 inch to the center line. That means from that vertical center line, 1 inch in, you're going to go basically to the left, a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch plus a 32nd. Go to the other side of the line, 1/2 inch plus a 32nd, and that will be your width. Okay, and then your height. Which is given at 8.6526, roughly 8 5/8, a little bit heavy on that. Okay. Your preparation in the edge of the door is going to be either radiused or square. You know, when you're drilling all of these things, what I would do is on the face of the style, you can see that it's got 0.17 radius max. You know, if you're going to be using a drill bit that is 0.17 times 2 to get the diameter, you know, you're looking at basically a drill bit that's got that's a 5/16 drill bit, let's say. You drill your 4 points. Be very careful not to, you know, your center of the drill point's got to be, you know, 0.17 roughly in and over to the inside of the hole. Then you're just going to cut straight and connect all those dots. Okay. You would do that on both sides of the door. I would not recommend trying to drill through the door. It's just too easy to drill it not straight or not level. Okay. Now the preparation in the edge, which is what I was trying to say, I would do that the same way. I would mark my 2 points. If I knew that my overall height was going to be It looks like it's 3.218. Yeah, this drawing that we've got here shows everything. So if your overall height of the prep is 3.218, okay, it will give you the width of the prep, which I'm looking for. Which must be on the link to the template. Oh, there it is. Yep. It's not shown on the instructions. It's 0.531, so just heavy on a half of an inch. Yep, 0.531. So, you know, you're going to need a drill bit that's 1 divided by 32 times 17, maybe? Yep, 17/32 of an inch would be the diameter of the drill bit. Drill that top and bottom, and then cut down all the way to make that a straight preparation. Looking at the rest of the installation instructions, we see now the information that I don't see immediately available to us is the reference to the center line of the lock body to the center line of the escutcheon plates. I'm going to pause this video while I find that information. Okay, that information is certainly there. The dimension from the top of the preparation for your escutcheon to the bottom hole is 1.453, so roughly 15-30 seconds. And then from that point, you'll be able to get all the rest of your points. A lot of laying out, a lot of detail work if you're doing a new installation. But the truth of the matter is, once you've laid it all out, and you've marked your door with all your points, you're going to need a variety of points. Go back and double check it all. Then once I know that I'm correct, I'll take my center punch and I'll just mark all my holes. Be very careful if there's glass in the door, and there very likely is. If you're going to be doing that, I like to create just a small center punched area, so that when I start with my drill bit doesn't walk like a drill bit typically does. I like a 135-degree drill point. It's flatter. It gets me started nice. I like that sort of drill point for doing that. Okay. And while it's certainly all tedious to lay all that out, quite frankly, that is the job of a locksmith. That's the industry in which they work, and that's how they make a living. But it is most likely that you're going to be doing a replacement, so all of this information regarding installation is academic, is the bottom line. I'm partial to Adams Rite, and the reason I am is because the material is of high quality. Okay, you can get replacement parts for the material. Now, referring to that, there's a document below this that's a parts drawing, and it will show you the individual constituent parts for the material. You might have a condition by which you just end up finding the entire lock and say, you know what, give me the whole lock. And I've had people do that. These locks are very common on boats, from the deck to the cabin. And the client will say, I want a whole new lock. I says, well, wait a minute. Is the lock body broken? You know, no, that seems to work just fine. So let's back it up. Let's get just the broken part. What happens a lot of times is they lose the key in the off-boating season. Well, they're going to break the outside trim to be able to get in. All right, well, this is all you need. So let's just get this part, is the logic. So I'm partial to Adams Rite for that reason as well. You can get replacement parts. Number 3, their customer service and their technical support are superb. They answer the questions predictably, reliably, in a professional amount of time, and they answer it correctly. And they will even tolerate several follow-up questions as well. So I'm partial to Adams Rite for all those reasons. Very good, predictable, reliable shipping, lead times. A lot of this material is made to order. A lot of this material, because of the quantity of variants, is just simply not stocked. But they always have a pretty predictable lead time. And it's for those 4 reasons that I'm partial to them. If you have any questions on this Adams Rite 4431-09 series lock or any other Adams Rite product, please feel free to reach out to us.